I am not sure.
That's a very good job.
Can I read that one?
No, this ain't for little black. Well, this is for God-fearing Christians like me. For God-fearing Christians like me.
Children of Israel who came from afar. There's more information I want to tell you too. African Americans, I'm talking about you. Wake up before you meet your fate. Serve your God before it's too late. In case you're wondering, how will he hear us? Repent. Jesus, oh Lord, we know we're not worthy. Oh Lord, we know we're not worthy. Mercy, oh God. Lord, we know we're not worthy. We know we're not worthy. Show us your mercy. Lord, we know we're not worthy. Have mercy, oh God. Lord, we know we're not worthy.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Greetings. What a awesome video that was. I know you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. That was I Know I'm Not Worthy from Atlanta, Georgia. Shout out to those in the IOG from Atlanta, Georgia. Beautiful, beautiful video. Strong message that's being put out, and shout out to them, the talent and the commitment that is there. That is titled, Lord, You Know I'm Not Worthy. I'm Not Worthy. That was from the Israel of God Atlanta class. So tonight, brothers and sisters, shout out to everyone. Let's see who's in our chat room before we get started tonight. Let's roll this thing all the way back to the very beginning. And first in our class, pretty much as always, Brother Abraham Talbot. How you doing, Brother Abraham? Glad to have you here with us tonight. Latoya Moore, Tyrone Smith, thank you all for being here. Sister Talia Willie Denny, thank you for being here. Brother Mark P., another one of our moderators. Brother Brian Johnson, my brother from another mother. Sister Brenda Beauclair. Our title tonight came at the request of Sister Brenda Beauclair. We're going to get into that later. Franklin Grant, thank you for being here. How you doing, Megan? Thank you for coming inside class tonight. Kevin Yates, thank you for coming, my brother. Sister Lady J. Did I say Lady G? Lady J, how you doing, my sister? Marjorie, how you doing? Juanita Carew, how you doing? Brother Landon, how you doing? We're going to be teaching Brother Landon's request tomorrow night, and that is unclean. Dealing with how do we... Brother Landon, I didn't write down the subject, so can you put it in the chat room tonight again for tomorrow night, if you don't mind. Sister Marie, thank you for coming in. Had a wonderful time this weekend. Sister Marie is now a grandmother to a beautiful bouncing baby boy. Shout out to you, Sister Marie. All right, brothers and sisters, we're going to get into this lesson tonight, and it is entitled The Divorce. Let me get right to the title. I wrote it down here. And it's titled The Divorce of Israel and the Remarriage of Israel. The Divorce of Israel and the Remarriage of Israel. So that's our subject tonight, brothers and sisters. We're going to get underway at it right away. I'm going to address this lesson from a couple of different angles. I'm going to talk about the divorce and the remarriage. I want to get it from a different angle. I'm not going to go into a lot of the history, so much into what caused all of the divorce, but I want to get into the core of, I want to relate it to like a marriage, like we do today. Because that's the analogy that the scriptures use. It uses man and wife. It uses the marriage as the way to explain what happened between Israel and the God of Israel. And the best way to describe that is this. Yes, what makes you unclean spiritually and physically. Thank you, Brother Landon. That will stay up on the board, and that would help me for tomorrow night. I had to do a download or upload, a new version, that's the word, and it erased everything. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so let's get into this real quick. Let's get into it and deal with this so we can have a little idea of how we're going to deal with this lesson, okay? From a marriage standpoint. When two people get married, they enter into an agreement. That's what it is. Marriage is a covenant agreement between two people. What causes divorces is when someone, one of the parties, is not fulfilling their half of the covenant agreement. In fact, the scripture says that if a man takes on another wife and he does not provide food, raiment, and the duties of a husband, she is free. It also goes into conditions in which both parties can divorce each other. So I want to look at this from the aspect of marriage. Even today, what causes mishaps in marriages is when there cannot be a covenant agreement, and it's broken, and it's repeatedly broken to the point that anger comes in. And when anger comes in, it starts to diminish the love. Fighting takes place, sometimes physical. Hope it doesn't get that way. And it also gets in psychologically. Verbal abuse, physical abuse. And what happens with that, it causes the two parties to go their separate ways. We're going to take a look at what the marriage agreement before we get into the divorce of Israel. Because I think if we get inside the agreement, we can understand why the divorce took place between God and Israel. Shout out to Brother Will Turner. He came to South Florida and he taught a lesson. I believe I was in Orlando teaching at the time, but he taught a lesson here titled A Perfect Marriage Gone Bad. If you all have the IOG phone app, look for that lesson in its full entirety. It's a wonderful, inspiring lesson. So we're going to first of all look at the marriage. We're going to look at the marriage of Israel. And let me just say this. I'll do a little talking, but I want to get into the scriptures. But for the sake of time, Israel was chosen by the God of Israel. He told him, says, I chose you not because you were the greatest, but I selected you because you were the least among them all. And he entered into a covenant agreement. And we're going to get into that. We're going to look at some of that tonight before we get into anything else dealing with the divorce. Let's look at the agreement. Let's go. We're going to go over to the book of Exodus. I think that's a good place to go. And we're going to go over to, I think the 19th chapter is a good place. The 19th chapter of Exodus. Now, the children of Israel, brothers and sisters, they were in Egypt, and they cried unto the Lord. And we're going to deal with that. We know that he made a covenant agreement with Abraham, but I want to look at this covenant agreement that he made with Israel as a nation. In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai, for they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel. Incidentally, if you're tuning in for the first time, I teach from the King James Version. Sister Brenda Beauclair says she can't hear me, so let me cut myself up a little bit. I hope that's better, Sister Brenda. You all give me a sound check and I'll cut it up a little bit more. Okay? Moses went up to God, and the Lord called him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, You seen what I did. You, Israel, you have seen what I did, and how I bear you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Israel as a nation. No other nation has ever, brothers and sisters, class, let me say, they have never, no other nation has had this type of experience with the God of Israel. And his name was Jehovah or Yahweh before he was known as we say, the God of the Old Testament. Now, therefore, this is what he says. If ye will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. I did a lesson one time, and I'm going to do another one extensively, and it's going to be titled, If Then. If Then. That's going to be the title of the subject, If Then. And when we look at these ifs are conditions. It's a condition. Then cannot happen until if takes place. If takes place, then is guaranteed to happen. Let me say that again. If takes place, then shall take place. That's kind of a tongue twister there, but yes, if the conditions mentioned in the if statement take place, what follows is the then statement. All Israel had to do, and this is their covenant agreement, if you obey my voice, indeed, that's one part of the agreement, and is a conjunction. I'm not an English teacher, but I'm just putting a little bit in here to show you it's not only just obeying the voice, and keep my covenant. Then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. I want to highlight verse 5 and 6 for a second, because I want you to take a look at it. Brothers and sisters, in any type of relationship, no matter who you are, whether it's a relationship on a job, whether it's a relationship in the business, whether there's a relationship in a marriage, there will always be conditions. And if those conditions are broken by either party, there's a problem. When you go for a job, you're given a conditional letter, a conditional offer letter. If you follow through with certain things, then under those conditions, they will hire you. If you enter into a business with a partner, there are terms. There's a written agreement as to how the business will take place, how salaries will be paid between those that are in partnership. What is the goal? What's the function? What's the role of each person? And if each person fills out their role, then those conditions will be followed with the reward of that business. Same thing with marriage. Same thing with marriage. And the Lord did the same thing here. I just want you to obey my voice and keep my covenant. You're going to be this is awesome here. You're going to be a peculiar treasure because all the earth is his. You're going to be a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. So Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And I want you to look at the response from Israel. And the reason I want you looking for the response from Israel, this is like when you go down the aisle, and I'm talking about the wedding aisle, and vows, commitments are made. However people get married these days. but usually that's the exchange. So the point that I'm making is that there's a response in regards to the covenant agreement. It requires that. Usually you hear somebody say, do you take this husband? Do you take this wife? So let's go look at something, because this is what Israel said. Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded. Look at verse number 8. And all the people answered together. All, not some. All the people, all of Israel said, all that the Lord hath spoken, we will do. This is like saying, I do. This is saying, I do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, lo, you know what? Since they're going to do that, I'm going to show myself. I'm going to come down in the thick cloud that the people may hear when I speak with you and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. So I'm going to skip all of this, brothers and sisters, because when we go over to the book of Deuteronomy, we're going to look further at this agreement, Deuteronomy the 28th. We're going to look further at this agreement because they said all that the Lord say do, they would do. And when the Lord came down and gave them the commandments, they entered into a covenant agreement, a blood covenant agreement, because Moses sprinkled both the book, the altar, and all the people. An agreement was entered into. Deuteronomy 28. And it shall come to pass, if thou hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee. Here we go again. If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Listen to how this is written. If you hearken, if you listen to the voice. Here it goes again. If you hearken to the voice. Same thing. Listen, hearken. It goes back over here to Exodus, which we read earlier. That's all they have to do. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice. Hear what I'm saying to you, Israel. Hear what I'm about to say. And he gave them, brothers and sisters, the commandments written by his own finger on tables of stone. We're not going to get into that, but I just wanted to just show you that it's saying the same thing. Hearken to his voice. All these blessings will overtake you. Just hearken to the voice of the Lord. Hearken to his words. And listen to this. Blessed shall thou be in the city. Blessed shall thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy ground, the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall thy basket be in store. And he names them over and over. All the blessings. We're not going to get into all of it, but I just wanted to show you that the Lord says, if you do this, look at what's going to happen to you. He also said, listen, the Lord shall cause your enemies to rise up against you, to be smitten down before thy face. They should come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. There was no way Israel would have had any enemies that would have been successful over them, simply by doing what the Lord said. And the Lord commanded the blessings upon thee in thy storehouses and in all that thou settest thy hand to do. Wow. Could you imagine everything that you set your hand to do? This is a part of the marital covenant agreement. Just hearken to my voice and hear my commands. And listen, when Moses gave the children of Israel the commandments, they accepted them. They entered into that covenant agreement on their own accord. It was a choice, by the way. We're not robots, brothers and sisters. We all have to make a choice. Let's keep looking at it. Let's keep looking at it. The Lord shall command the blessing upon thee in your storehouses, everything that you set your hand to do. Could you imagine? You want to open up a business? Bam. Set your hand to it. It's successful. You want to start a lawn business? Put your hand to it. Bam. It's successful. Everything that you touch is just successful without any problems, without any mishaps. It just works. It just works because that was a part of the marital covenant agreement. Listen to this. The Lord shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God and walk in his ways. All the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of you. That's all you got to do. You're going to be a holy people, and all you have to do is just keep the commandments of the Lord, because no other nation has such righteous laws. In fact, the question was asked, what other nation has such a God as this, creator of all heaven and earth? What other nation has a God that gives such righteous laws? None. And then he says, who would give up their God? Israel did. Israel did. Israel did. So let's keep looking at this. That's all you have to do is just keep the commandments, walk in his ways. I want to go down a little bit. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left hand, to go after other gods to serve them. Wow. I want to go up to 13. I just want to look at that because listen to this. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. Thou shalt be above only. Thou shalt not be beneath. If thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left hand, to go after other gods and serve them. Don't do it. But in every agreement, there's always a clause. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe all his commandments and statutes, which I command thee this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And you can go back and look at all of the blessings. He's going to make those blessings a curse. You'll be the tail, never the head. Whatever you set your hand to do, it'll never work. You're going to always have trouble at it. You got to go extra mile. Everybody else, but you got to go an extra mile. You're going to be cursed in the city, cursed in the field. Your basket's going to be cursed. Everything that he's called a blessing is going to be the opposite. And he goes on. He names a whole bunch of stuff. Take some time to read Deuteronomy, the 11th chapter. I'm not going to hit all of that, but just in particular, just some things that sticks out that you might be familiar with. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thy hand. Wow. So, this is what he said that would happen to Israel. In fact, I'm gonna put you under another king and put you someplace else, and there you're gonna serve other gods, wood and stone. You're going to become an astonishment, a proverb, a byword among all nations, where the Lord is going to scatter you, simply for breaking the covenant agreement, simply for making and going against the word of the Lord that you entered to. Israel entered into this. Let's keep going. Just to give you where he says you're going to be the head and the tail, he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, talking about your enemy, and you're going to be the tail. Everything's the opposite. Everything is the opposite of what the Lord said. And then he says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till you be destroyed. Those are some harsh words. I'm going to put all of these curses. They're going to pursue you. They're going to look for you. Trouble is going to look for you. You don't have to look for trouble. Trouble is going to look for you, and it's going to overtake you till you be destroyed. And then he tells you why. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God. To do what? To keep his commandments, his statutes, which he commanded thee. This is, you see, because before we go into the marriage or the divorce, we got to hit this marital agreement. It's important that you know why you were divorced. Because perhaps you would know what it takes to get back in the house. Either spouse. When somebody does something wrong, whether it's a business, whatever it is, you have to do, once you find out, because you already know what it is, that the agreement is set forth. The terms of the agreement have been broken. People know when they break the agreement. They already know, I'm breaking the agreement. I'm breaking the agreement of what I'm supposed to be. Whether it's a good husband, a good wife, I'm breaking the agreement. And then from there, only mercy can let you back in. A merciful spouse, a merciful business owner, partner. It's only grace and mercy that person will find forgiveness to let you back in. And it happens every day. All of this is going to happen because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness, with a gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. So you know what? Because of that, if this happens, this was a warning. This was a warning. You're going to serve your enemies. You're going to serve them in hunger and thirst and nakedness and in want of all things. He's going to put a yoke of iron on your neck until he has destroyed you. And he's going to bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue you cannot understand. In other words, you're going to be taken by strange countries, brothers and sisters. And that happened to Israel. That happened to Israel. Let's keep going down. We talk about the marital covenant agreement, because this agreement was given to Israel before Israel even acted up. But he says, if you will not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear the glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God, then the Lord will make these plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, soreness of long continuance. This is why Israel's the number one in all manner of diseases today. Number one in heart, number one in blood pressure, the number one in diabetes, the smallest of the nation, but number one. Let's skip down. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do good to you and to multiply you, once the terms of this agreement is broken, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye should be plucked off. You should be plucked from off the land, whether thou goest to possess it. This is deep, brothers and sisters. We're looking at the terms of the agreement. Are Mexicans and Puerto Ricans Israelites by birthright? Unless they've been scattered, unless they scattered Israel, no. And listen to this. Listen to this. Somebody asked, are Mexicans and Puerto Ricans Israelites by birthright? So the answer to that is no. I know there's that 12 tribe chart rule. There's no scripture for that, okay? Let's look at this again. What's the Lord going to do? The Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there you're going to serve other gods which thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And you're not going to find no ease. Neither the sole of your foot have any rest. This is deep. And here's a clincher. Verse 68, the Lord is going to cause you to go into Egypt again with ships. That means he's going to cause you to go into bondage again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and nobody will buy you. Somebody asked me, well, Pastor, what does it mean? Because he said you're going to be sold. How are you going to be sold if no man will buy you? That means nobody's going to redeem you. You got to go look at the redeeming law dealing with slavery. But that's what it means here. Nobody will redeem you. You're going to be sold, and nobody's going to redeem you. Nobody's going to get you out of the situation that you're in. And let me just tell you, brothers and sisters, we've had a lot of people in our lifetime, that have tried to get us out of this. Martin Luther King couldn't do it. Jesse Jackson couldn't do it. Farrakhan can't do it. Marcus Garvey can't do it. Al Sharpton can't do it. Nobody can redeem you. Nobody can get you out of this mess. Barack Obama can't do it. Nobody can get Israel out of the mess that they're in. Why? Because he said this is a warning. This is a warning. Now that we understand, let's read a little bit more. These are the words of the covenant. These are the words of the marital agreement. These are the words which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, beside the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. And you know what? Moses called unto all Israel and said unto them, you have seen all that the Lord did before your eyes in the land of Egypt unto Pharaoh, and unto all his servants, and unto all his land, the great temptations which thy eyes have seen, the signs and those great miracles. Yet the Lord hath not given you an heart to perceive, and eyes to see, and ears to hear unto this day. I've led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes are not waxed old upon you, and thy shoe is not waxed old upon your feet. Ye have not eaten bread, neither have ye drunk wine or strong drink, that ye might know that I am the Lord. And when you came unto this place, Sihon the king of Heshbon and Og the king of Bashan came out against you to battle, and we smote them, because that's what he said he would do. Your enemy will come one way, he'll send them out another way. And then he says, and he took their land and gave it for an inheritance to Reuben, Gad, and to the half tribe of Manasseh. Why did he do that? He did it to keep therefore the words of this covenant and do them. Israel, keep those words that you may prosper in all that you do. Stand ye this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your captains of your tribes, your elders, your officers, with all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, the stranger that is in thy camp, from the hewer of the wood unto the drawer of the water, all of your strangers that you brought in, all of the ones that's under your gates, that you should enter into the covenant with the Lord thy God, and into his oath, which the Lord thy God maketh with thee this day. Why does he want you to do that, brothers and sisters? He's asking. This is the marriage. This is the marriage. We cannot talk about the divorce until we highlight the divorce. I'm sorry, we cannot talk about the divorce until we highlight the marriage. Got to highlight the marriage. Got to highlight the terms of the marriage. We got to highlight the covenant agreement with the marriage. Before we get into the divorce, we got to deal with this so you can understand why. Let's keep going. And the reason why, brothers and sisters, he wants to make this agreement that you should enter into the covenant with the Lord thy God and his oath, which the Lord thy God maketh with thee this day, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, and that he may be unto thee a God, as he hath said unto thee, as he hath sworn unto the fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that standeth here with us this day before the Lord our God, and also with him that is not here with us this day. This thing is everlasting, brothers and sisters. So, what did Israel do? What did Israel do? Because he said, if it come to pass, when you hear the words of this curse, that he bless himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, though I walk in the imagination of mine heart, to add drunkenness to the thirst. Guess what? You can think that when you enter into this covenant agreement, that you can just do whatever you want to. The Lord will not spare him. But then the anger of the Lord and his jealousy shall smote against that man, and all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and the Lord shall blot out his name from under heaven. Wow. I want you to look at the marriage agreement. I want you to look at the marriage agreement that the children of Israel entered into. Wow. Let's go back up here. And I want to show this to you. And it shall come to pass, when all these things shall come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether the Lord God have driven thee, and shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice, according to all I command thee this day, that thou and the children with all thine heart, and with all thy soul. So somebody say, the Lord just wants your heart. He's always wanted Israel's heart. That's what marital agreements do. They want your heart. They want your soul. So listen to this. It shall come to pass, when all these things shall come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I said before thee, thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether the Lord thy God have driven thee. When you get there, you'll remember. See, this is why we have to go into the book and read these things, so we'll quit blaming other people. Absolutely up next. Absolutely. We're going to get into that. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to get into that in just a second. Up next says, marriage at Sinai, only 9 of the tribes were divorced. We're going to get into that. And we're going to get into why in a second. I want you to look at this, brothers and sisters. I want you to look at this. I want you to look at what is going on with the covenant agreement that Israel entered into. I want you to look at this right here. Look at this covenant and look at what he says. See, this is stuff that he's putting out here. And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice, according to all that I commanded this day, thou and thy children with all the heart, with all thy soul. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion on thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whether the Lord have scattered thee. Now let's talk about something. When we talk about the divorce, Israel was one nation. I want you to hear this. There was one nation. And there was an issue when Solomon died dealing with Jeroboam and Rehoboam. The kingdom got split between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was off the chain. When I tell you off the chain, they were off the chain, brothers and sisters. They were off the chain. It even got to the point that when there was competition, that the northern nation made 2 calves and said, these are the gods. They went back knowing what trouble they got into from making the golden calf. The 2 nations split between Jeroboam and Rehoboam, the north and the south. Judah and Benjamin was the south. Later, Israel was so bad they kicked out the Levites. Some of the Levites came down into the southern tribe. So here we are. We have a divorce between the 9 nations, and then you got the 3 nations. And there was some scattering, brothers and sisters, because we have been scattered. Those that are part of Judah got scattered. Judah got scattered. Judah did not get divorced, but Judah got scattered. But what is the Lord going to do? He's going to gather the 2 sticks as they're one. But let's talk about the divorce. Let's talk about the divorce. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit. Let's find out what happened. Let's find out what happened. Let's get into that a little bit. And we're going to read a little bit. We're going to get into what happened with that divorce and why, in particular, brothers and sisters, we're going to look at the book of Hosea. Hosea. We're going to look at the book of Hosea as we analyze this divorce, because it needs to be analyzed. And we need to look at it. We need to look at, because all of the warning is here. All of the warning is here. But what has happened is that Israel has messed up. So let's go over here. Let's go to the book of Hosea. Now I'm going to skip around a little bit, and somebody might say, well, you didn't read that verse. I'm doing it because I'm setting up the stage for something. But I want to read it. I want to read it this way, and I just want to set up the stage. Listen to this. The word of the Lord came unto Hosea, the son of Beeri, because now we're going to get into the divorce. But I want you to understand what the Lord did. He had Hosea the prophet marry a woman of whoredom so that he could see what the Lord was dealing with Israel. We're going to read that right now. The word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, the son of Beeri, in the days of Ahaziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. Now notice this naming it that way because, again, you got the northern and the southern kingdoms. You got 9 tribes that went up and 2 that went to the south. The beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea. The beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea. And the Lord said unto Hosea, go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredoms, departing from the Lord. He's talking about what has happened with his people. that a covenant agreement was entered into. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, hope I'm saying that right, which conceived and bare him a son. And the Lord said unto him, call his name Jezreel. Call his name Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause, I'm sorry, let me read that again. Call his name Jezreel. Here's why. For yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. Prophecy. That's what I want you to do. I want you to go and marry someone of that nation, because the word Jezreel, all Hebrew words, or you can say Yezreel, this means to scatter. That's what that means, to scatter. So I want you to go down there. And so she bare him a son, and the Lord said unto him, call his name Jezreel, call him scattered, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass at that day, I will break the bowl of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. And not only a son, she shall conceive and bear a daughter. And God said unto him, call her name Lorahama. That means no pity, no mercy. For I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel. I will utterly take them away. Wow. So the question is, well, what about, that's the northern kingdom. What about the southern kingdom? But listen to what he says. I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, not by horses, nor by horsemen. I'm going to keep them. I'm going to save them. Now, when she had weaned Leruamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said God, call his name Laomi, for ye are not my people. I will not be your God. Wow. Whew. Listen to this. Ye are not my people. There it should be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of the scattered. Now this is saying something, because we're looking here at what caused the divorce. What caused the divorce, brothers and sisters, even when the two nations were split, Israel was off the chain. Israel was off the chain. But we know it was Judah in the last days that was brought over into the ships, the southern tribe, and scattered all over the place. Scattered. Israel just, so the Lord has to bring back together. He said, that's why he says, take two sticks, put them back together. And the Lord is going to redeem us, because nobody else will redeem us out of this mess. Nobody can, but the Lord will do it. So let's go into some stuff. Let's look into this day of redemption. Since we're right here, let's just read the 2nd chapter of Hosea. Say ye unto your brethren, army unto your sisters, Ruhamah, plead with your mother, plead, for she's not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts. Y'all can't see that. I'm sorry. There it is right there. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and set her as in the day that she was born, to make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. And you know what the Lord said? I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. For their mother have played the harlot. She have conceived them. She that conceived them have done shamefully. For she said, I'm going to go after my lovers, that I will give my bread and my water and my wool and my flax and my oil and my drink. I'm going after them. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up thy way with thorns. I will make a wall that she shall not find her paths. And she shall follow after her lovers, but she shall not overtake them. And she shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then shall she say, I will go and return to my first husband, for then was it better with me than now. Let me leave that right there. Let me leave that right there. Let me leave that right there. Let me just say this, brothers and sisters. You can just look at the story of the two sons. One says, give me mine inheritance now. He takes that inheritance and he goes out and does some riotous living. He just wasted and just did all kinds of craziness. And then he came to his senses and says, you know what? I think I'm going to go back to my father's house. I want to go back home. And in this lesson tonight, I wonder how many of us want to go back home. Because here's what we do. We have really been blaming the enemy for our issues when the issue was caused by us and it was brought on by the Lord, the God of Israel. The God of Israel brought this upon Israel, just like he said he would. All of these things have happened, brothers and sisters, because the Lord said he was going to do it. Judah was scattered. Israel was divorced. I want you to look at this. But what do people do? They bethink themselves in their situation, and then they say, you know what? It was better when I was at home. It's not such a bad husband after all, is it? Not such a bad spouse at all, is it? It's not a bad job at all. I badmouthed that job and left it. Went over to someplace else, and I didn't know I don't get benefits over here. I don't know. I didn't know I didn't get overtime. But they were paying $1 more an hour, $2 more an hour. So you left the job that was giving you benefits and overtime and retirement. You go over to another job because they told you they're going to pay you $2 more an hour, and you get over there and they treating you bad. Israel says, I will go and return to my first husband, for then was it better with me than now. Israel went through a lot, brothers and sisters, and I say a lot. I want to go to Jeremiah. I want to go to the book of Jeremiah because Hosea is not the only one that dealt with this. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah. And we're going to look at let's go to the 3rd chapter of Jeremiah. Let's read a little bit. They say, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's, shall he return unto her again? Shall not the land be greatly polluted? This is a question that he's asking, brothers and sisters. They say, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's. He slept with her. He slept with her. Might have even treated her bad. Might even treat her bad. Let's keep reading this because Jeremiah is going to give us some understanding. Shall not the land be greatly polluted? But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers, yet returned again to me, saith the Lord. Lift up thine eyes unto the high places, and see where thou hast not been lean with. In the ways thou set for them. Let me read that again. In the ways hast thou set for them as the Arabian in the wilderness, and thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms and with thy wickedness. Let's pick it up in verse number 6. The Lord said unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel have done? She has gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there have played the harlot. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me, but she returned not. And listen to this, and her treacherous sister Judah saw it. Now we're going to get someplace. Now we're going to find out what happened to the southern folk. Listen to this. And her treacherous sister Judah, she saw it. And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Right here. Yet her treacherous sister feared not. Let's get some history. Israel is split. The Jeroboam and the Rehoboam issue. 9 tribes, really 10. Levite got pushed out, went down to spend some time with, joined themselves with Judah and Benjamin. Look at what the Lord has done. Look at the divorce, as he said. Look at the order. I divorce Israel. I divorce the northern kingdom. I divorce the northern kingdom. But her treacherous, we're going to read about the treacherous sister. Let me go back to Hosea, and I'm just going to read one verse. Hosea 1 and 7. And listen to what it says. I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, but Israel, I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. But I'm going to have mercy on the house of Judah. But let's go read Jeremiah. Let's put this into perspective. And let's go down again to verse number 6. The Lord said unto me in the days of Josiah the king, have you seen what backsliding Israel have done? She is gone up upon every high mountain and every green tree, and there have played the harlot. This is Israel. Played the harlot. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me. But she returned not. Listen to this. And her treacherous sister, Judah, the southern kingdom, saw it. And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I put her away, and given her a bill of divorce. Guess what? Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. And yet for all this, her treacherous sister Judah hath not returned unto me with her whole heart, but feignedly, said the Lord. But feignedly, just feignedly. And the Lord said, the backsliding Israel hath justified herself more than treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north and say, return thou backsliding Israel, saith the Lord, and I will not cause my anger to fall upon you, for I am merciful, said the Lord, and I will not keep anger forever. Only acknowledge thine iniquity, that thou hast transgressed against the Lord, and hast scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree. You've not obeyed my voice. Remember, that was a part of the agreement. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, because I am married unto you. See, this is the divorce. This is the divorce, brothers and sisters, because the divorce does not happen overnight. The divorce is a process. Only crazy people get into one argument after they get married and get into one argument and say, you know what, I'm getting a divorce. Yeah, leave. You go your way and I go my way. That's a crazy situation. Under normal circumstances, it takes a while people's tolerance, because love covers a multitude of sin. Love covers wrong. What are you saying, Pastor? Love will make you blind to a lot of mess. Love will make you take a lot of mess. Love will make you tolerant until it runs out. And once it runs out, brothers and sisters, once that love runs out, after the love is gone, after the love is gone, after the love is gone, this is deep, after the love is gone, so I want us to look at what happened. I want us to look at what happened to all of this, brothers and sisters. Because again, Hosea 1:7. I will have mercy upon the house of Judah and will save them, the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, nor by horsemen. But Israel, and so what are you saying, Pastor? The war, the issue that Judah had, Judah did not hear. Judah did not hear. What Judah started to do, brothers and sisters, they turned from the God of Israel and they started to worship pagan gods. That's what Judah started doing. That's what Judah started to do. Judah just got themselves in trouble because, as he said, look at what happened to Judah. Look at Judah. I want to go read something in Jeremiah 23. Jeremiah 23. This is what it says. Woe unto the pastors that destroy. I'm sorry, let me put the scriptures up. Woe unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pastors, saith the Lord. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel against the pastors that feed my people. Ye have scattered my flock and have driven them away and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doing, said the Lord, and I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries whither I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds. And they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name, whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. The Lord our righteousness. Judah, brothers and sisters, will not be redeemed until Jesus comes. So you got Judah and Israel. You got Judah and Israel. Israel, I want you to look at the demise of Israel. I want you to look at the demise of this and as to what is happening to this divorce and this demise. I want you to look, because you have to see what has taken place. I want to go read this from the perspective of Isaiah, the prophet. Isaiah the prophet. Let's go check that out. Isaiah the prophet. Let's go read this. Thus saith the Lord, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities have you sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away. Wherefore, when I came, was there no man? When I called, was there none to answer? Is my hand shortened at all that it cannot redeem? Or have I power to deliver? Behold, at my rebuke I dry up the sea. I make the rivers a wilderness. Their fish stinketh, because there is no water, and dieth for thirst. I clothe the heavens with blackness, and make sackcloth their covering. The Lord hath given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in the season to him that is weary. He waketh morning by morning. He waketh mine ear to hear as the learned. The Lord God hath opened mine ear, and I was not rebellious, nor turned away my back. This is talking about Jesus now. I gave my back to the smiters, and my cheeks to them that plucked off the hair. I did not hide myself from shame and spitting. For the Lord will help me. Therefore shall I not be confounded. Therefore have I set my face like a flint, and I will know that I shall not be ashamed. Because, brothers and sisters, the Lord, the Father, is going to send the very one that divorced Israel. Why? Because of their sins. They were put away. They were divorced. But yet, Jesus can save them, brothers and sisters. If we keep his commandments, he can save us. But if we don't, he won't save us. Let's go read that. Let's go to the book of Matthew, the 26th chapter. Matthew 26. I just want to read a couple of verses so we can put this thing in perspective from Isaiah. Listen to this. Verse 57. Verse 57. And they laid hold on him, and they laid hold on Jesus and led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. And let's look at what we just read, what they did to him. And the high priest arose and said unto him, answer thou nothing? When they wanted to know who he was. What is it which these witness? What is it which these witness against thee? But Jesus held his peace. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. And Jesus said unto them, thou hast said, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. You don't think that made them angry? That made them so mad. Watch Isaiah's prophecy. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, he had spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, how you all have heard this blasphemy coming from him. What think ye? They answered and said, he is guilty of death. And then they spit in his face, buffeted him, and others smote with him the palms of their hands. This is deep. Saying, prophesy unto us, thou Christ. Who is he that smote thee? See, Israel sinned, brothers and sisters, by worshiping other gods. And the children of Israel is God's wife. He's our husband. And guess what? He put us away, but he's going to remarry his wife. When would that be? At his second coming. That's when it's going to happen. That won't happen till his second coming. And when he comes, then we'll know what's going to happen. Other than that, it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen until he returns. Because his job is to redeem Israel. That's his job. When he comes, he's going to come to redeem Israel. That's the job of Christ. I'm coming to redeem them. But in order to be redeemed, you got to keep his commandments. You got to go back to the covenant agreement. Now we're talking about the remarrying part. Brother Julius says, Hosea 1 and 11, I think we read that, 2, 14 to 20, divorce, from the divorce to the marriage of all Israel. I think we just put that one in, but let's go back and look at it. I think we had read that one. I'll go back over there. Shout out to Brother Julius in our chat room, brothers and sisters, one of our moderators. We read verse 1 through 11, but I want to go back down here. I think he's saying the second chapter, verses 14 through 20. Yes, I don't want to get there yet, Brother Julius. I'm going to hold that one. I think that's the one I got marked over here on my end. Yes, in my notes. I'm sorry. I looked at verses, the first chapter. So what does Israel have to do, brothers and sisters? Israel must, in the land that we have been scattered, we got to return. Let's go to 2 Kings, 8th chapter. 2 Kings, 8th chapter. Because you can't get out of this. And let me just say this. You got Judah and Israel. He divorced Israel first, but the treacherous sister, the same thing had to befall her because she saw it and didn't take heed to it. You would think, wait a minute, if I see that happen to them, perhaps that would happen to me too. Think about this. You know how when you were a child and you have brothers and sisters, and the younger child seems to see a lot, and they become a little bit wiser very quick because they see what happens when they're older, hard-headed brothers and sisters and siblings, not necessarily older, but their other siblings. You always got that one child that just kind of sits and watch to see the outcome of everything, and they know what not to do, and they know what to do and what not to do. Not Judah. Not Judah. Not Judah. That's why he says, her treacherous sister saw what I did to Israel. She saw that I put her away. But her treacherous sister? No. Nope. I'm going to go back and read that part again. Over in Hosea. I want you to look at this because there's something to get up out of this. And then I'm going to go to the other part about Israel. I want to talk about that treacherous sister that was there. I think that was over in the book of Jeremiah. Because it seems like, brothers and sisters, that they would have known. They would have saw this thing coming. But no, this is what we do sometimes. What we do sometimes is that we see things and we don't pay attention. We think it's not going to happen to us. Jeremiah 3rd chapter. I just wanted to show it to you real quick. I have to go back over here and log into it. Jeremiah the 3rd chapter. I just want you to get an idea. The Lord said unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen what the backsliding Israel have done? Have you seen this? And I said, after she have done all these things, turn not unto me. But she returned not, and her treacherous, this is not a good word, her treacherous sister Judah saw it. And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I put her away, giving her a bill of divorcement. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, did not learn. And what do you think Judah did? And went to go play the harlot also. So what did God do to Israel when Israel played the harlot? What did God do when Israel played the harlot? See ya. What did God do when Judah played the harlot? See ya. So now, brothers and sisters, let's look at this. I want to go back to Hosea, because Sister Brenda Beauclair, can you talk about the divorce? Now let's talk about the remarriage. The remarriage. Let's talk about in between for a second. I want to talk about in between the two for a moment. There's always a place when you have an opportunity, like the prodigal son, to go home. We call it the prodigal son. I like to say the other brother, the brother. I want you to look, the not the eldest brother, but the brother, because the eldest brother got upset. But I want you to look at something. I want you to look at the analogy of this parable. The younger brother, who spent all of his inheritance, when it got into a bad position, had enough insight and sense to say, it was better for me when I was in the house. That's what I call the in-between. You know, you got the part that you act up and you get divorced, and then you want to go back home, but it's that part in between I want to talk about for a second before we go into the marriage, or the remarriage, Sister Brenda. I believe in every relationship, time can be a healer. But what do you do with that time? And your reaction during that time, there's always a moment where somebody could say, you know what, let me look at what I have done. What could I have done better? See, that is the only thing that will make you say, it was better when I was in my father's house. That's what Israel did. Israel said, you know what, it was better. as we read, the harlot, it was better when let me go back to my first husband. When we read that, let me go back to my first husband. You know, again, that is a in-between that we're talking about. That is a place and time and a moment that you can resolve and really look at things as they are. I'm going to get there for a second. I want to get there, and we're going to go there. But I want you to see something for a second. I just want you to see this for a second, because I want you to look at where you get to a point in time and you say, let me just go home. Let me just go home. Look at this. She shall follow her lovers, but shall not overtake them. She shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then she will say, because this is the in-between that people get into, where they have an opportunity to look at themselves as things are, the situation as it is. I will go and return to my first husband, for then was it better with me than now. Let's go over to 2 Kings. And let me show you, brothers and sisters, how wise King Solomon was. Listen to this. I said 2 Kings is 1 Kings. 1 Kings, 8th chapter. I want you to look at this. Solomon is going to go into a prayer. This is during the feast, during the 7th month. He brings up all of the elders, the ark, and he's going to pray. And in this prayer, Solomon goes into this prayer, and I want you to look at the words that Solomon prayed. Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord in the presence of all the congregation of Israel, and spread forth his hands toward heaven. Now, I want you to understand, when this was done, Israel was one nation. There was no northern, there was no southern. This, because just to show you that prophetically, things befell the north and the south the same. Listen to this. He said, Lord God of Israel, there is no God like thee in heaven above or in the earth beneath, who keepeth covenant and mercy with thy servants that walk before thee with all their heart. Who has kept with thy servant David, my father, that thou promised him, that spaketh also with my mouth, and has fulfilled it with thine hand, as it is this day. He goes on in his prayer, and I want to get to the place here where Israel messes up. Israel messes up. Verse 33. When thy people Israel, again, they're one nation. There's no north, there's no south. Solomon was the king of Israel. But listen to what he says prophetically. When thy people Israel be smitten down before the enemy, why? Because they have sinned against thee, and shall turn again to thee, and confess thy name, and pray and make supplication unto thee in this house, then hear thou in heaven, and forgive the sin of thy people Israel, and bring them again unto the land which thou gavest unto their fathers. I want to go down a little bit more to let you know what he was telling Israel as a nation. Israel as a nation. Listen to this. If there be famine in the land, if there be pestilence, blasting, mildew, locusts, or if there be caterpillar, if the enemy besiege them in the land of their cities, whatsoever plague, whatsoever sickness there be, what prayer and supplication soever be made by any man or by all thy people Israel. This, on the way of learning something, we should learn something. And on the way of learning something, it's not only just Israel, but anybody. Which shall know every man the plague of his own heart. And if they spread forth their hands toward this place, then hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place, and forgive and do and give every man according to his ways, whose heart thou knowest. For thou, even thou only, knowest the hearts of all the children of men. I'm going someplace with this. Moreover, concerning a stranger. Now, some people say, "Oh, that's the other Israel." No, Israel is a nation. He's talking about Israel as a nation, but then here he's talking about a stranger who's not Israel. How do we know that? Moreover, concerning a stranger that is not of thy people Israel, but cometh out of a far country for thy name's sake. For they shall hear of thy great name, and of thy strong hand, and of thy stretched out arm, when he shall come, and they pray toward this house. Hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place, and do according to all that the stranger calleth to thee for, that all people of the earth may know thy name, to fear thee, as do thy people Israel, and that they may know that this house which I have built is called by thy name. I want to keep going because this is a mind that you've got to be in before the remarriage takes place. This is a condition where you have to say, you know what? Our forefathers have sinned. And I'm looking at this situation, and I'm looking at the gods that they were subjected to. I'm looking at the other Jesus that they were subjected to. I'm looking at the idolatry that they were subjected to. And I want to look back. I'm at a position that I want to evaluate so that I could be a part of the remarriage. If thy people go out to battle against the enemy, whithersoever thou shalt send them, and shall pray toward this house, hear their prayer in heaven. But listen to this. If they sin against thee, and they did, all of Israel, north and south, all of Israel and the treacherous sister. That's why he says, I'm going to take these two sticks and make them one. If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, and thou be angry with them, and he did, because he said the treacherous sister is no different, and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captives unto the land of their enemy, far or near. And that has happened, brothers and sisters. That's what has happened to you now. But if you want to be a part of the remarriage ceremony, yet if they shall bethink themselves, The prodigal, as they say, the prodigal son, the younger son bethinked himself. He bethinked himself, and he says, And that's what he said about Israel. Israel's going to say, you know what? I think I just want to go back to my first husband. If they shall bethink themselves in the land, whether they were carried captives, there's something you got to do. You got to repent. And you know when you repent, you'll quit blaming other people. Look at what they did to us. They are enemies. No, you are your own enemy. I remember Brother Julius came down and he was teaching at Bethel, and he made the statement, you want to know who your biggest enemy is? He said, look in the mirror. And I said to myself, that could not be a more truer statement, brothers and sisters. That's why the apostle says, if any man looks in the mirror and see what manner of man he is and walketh the way, you deceive yourself. So you can't look in the mirror and then turn around and say, I'm Israel. But then look at what they did to us. No, look at what we did to ourselves. So you got to repent. You can't repent until you acknowledge that it's your fault and make supplication unto thee in the land of them. So some people say, we got to get back to Israel. No, you got to do this in the land of them that carried them captives. You got to do this right here. You got to do it in America. You got to do it in the UK, you got to do it in Europe, wherever Israel has been scattered, you got to say, we have sinned and have done perversely and have committed wickedness. Not only you got to say it, brothers and sisters, you got to return with all your heart and with all your soul. Where do you do that? In the land of our enemies, which led us away captive. So what do you have to do? You got to face Jerusalem and pray unto thee toward their land, which thou gavest unto their fathers. And when they do that, then hear their prayer and their supplication in heaven, where you are, and maintain their cause. And you know what the Lord will do? And Solomon's prayer was, and forgive thy people that have sinned against thee, and all their transgressions wherein they have transgressed against thee, and have compassion on before them who carried them captive. That they may have compassion on them. See, brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters are in trouble when they get stopped by the police. But you know what? The Lord will cause your enemy to have compassion on you, because you won't be responding out of anger. You won't be finger pointing. You realize what has behold us is ourselves, because of what prophetically has stated that will come. But listen to the prayer of Solomon. If you just bethink yourselves. We're talking about remarriage now. We're going to get into remarriage. If you forgive them, Lord, because they are your people, they are your inheritance, what you brought out of the land of Egypt from the midst of the furnace of iron, they're yours. That thine eyes may be open unto the supplication of thy servant, and unto the supplication of thy people Israel, to hearken unto them in all that they call for unto thee. For thou didst separate them from among all, you separated them from among all the people of the earth, to be your inheritance, to be your bride, as thou spakest by the hand of Moses thy servant. They're yours. They're yours, Lord. So what has happened? You know, brothers and sisters, when you read the book of Judges, Israel goes in and out, in and out, in and out of slavery. Every time they got into trouble, the Lord will send somebody to redeem them. He sent Othniel first. And he redeemed them. They returned. He heard their cry. He sent Othniel. And you know what happened? Soon as Othniel died, the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. Repeatedly, time after time after time, they did it. And they just kept doing it. Just like you have patience and patience and patience. And Israel just wore out the God of Israel's patience. Even when they were split, the northern kingdom did some crazy stuff, brothers and sisters. Crazy stuff. Even including making 2 calves, as I mentioned earlier. But guess what? When he gave them a divorce, because they became whoredom, the treacherous sister Judah didn't do any different and turned to whoredom. No different, no different. So the Lord is scattered, but he's going to remarry. He's going to remarry, and you and I can be a part of that marriage if we return back to the covenant agreement. The same thing that got Israel into the divorce situation is the same thing that will get Israel back into the remarriage position. Oh, absolutely, brothers and sisters. This is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to return back to the covenant agreement. You're going to have to return back to the very thing. The very thing. And the Lord is going to raise up a branch. And that branch is going to execute judgment. We're going to read that because we're getting into the remarriage. We're getting into the remarriage. We're getting into the remarriage part. Jeremiah 23, 5 and 6. Behold, the days come. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch. That's Christ. That's Jesus. And a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days, because Judah is not going to be saved, in his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And his name, whereby he shall be called the Lord of righteousness. We're getting into the marriage part now, brothers and sisters. Because this king, this righteous branch, we know who that is. And let's just go read it in case we have one of these hardline Hebrews that says, you know what, I don't believe in the New Testament. Well, that's okay. Listen to this. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. When Herod the king, who was a converted king, he was converted, he was not real Israel. When Herod the king heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and the scribes of the people together to demand of them where Christ should be born, they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea. Why? Because it is written by the prophet, and thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. You see, brothers and sisters, let me just say this. When Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Lord gets over to Jacob. Jacob is getting ready to die. He calls in all of his sons and he gives Judah a special insight. Says, out of thee the scepter shall not depart from Judah. Your brothers and sisters, they're gonna bow before you. Why? Because this is where Christ came from. This is where Jesus came from. And he's letting them know, brothers and sisters, that this is who is going to redeem Israel, all of Israel. It's going to be redeemed. But you got to return to him. Now let's go to Hosea. And let's see how this is going to transpire. It gets deeper than this one scripture, but let's just go read it. Let's go read it. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. I'm going to speak very comfortable unto her. I'm going to bring her into the wilderness. I'm going to bring her where I can deal with her, just her and I. I will give her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope. And she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishai, husband, and thou shalt call me no more Baali, because I'm going to take that name out of your mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that day, what do? You make a covenant. In that day, I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, with the fowls of heaven, with the creeping things of the ground. I will break the bow and the sword and the battle of the earth. I will make them to lie down safely. I will betroth thee unto me forever. In this context, I will marry you. I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in judgment and in loving kindness and in mercy. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness. Thou shalt know the Lord. And it shall come to pass in that day, not now, in that day when he returns. I will hear, saith the Lord, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. I want you to look at what he's saying here. And the earth shall hear the corn and the wine and the oil, and they shall hear the scattered. That's what Jezreel means. And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. I will say to them which were not my people, you're my people. And they shall say, thou art my God. This is deep, brothers and sisters, because when he returns, he's gonna remarry Israel. And those that want to join themselves, this is what's going to happen, brothers and sisters. This is what's going to happen. And that's the history of the divorcement, and that's the history of the remarriage. Israel messed up. Together, they entered into a covenant agreement. When I say together, for those that try to look at the north and the south kingdoms differently, they entered into a covenant agreement. All of Israel. All of Israel. And all of Israel in the book of Judges, all of Israel, before they was even divided, brothers and sisters, all of Israel continued to go after other gods. And then when God put them in check and put them in bondage, they would cry out and he would send somebody, and they did that repeatedly. Israel has been in and out, in and out, in and out of slavery all throughout their relationship with the God of Israel. I'm going back at the very beginning of things. And then when Solomon died, nations split. They split. The northern kingdom, as I stated earlier, as I wrap this up, they were off the chain. Judah, Benjamin, Levite joined them because the northern kingdom just kicked them out. And after they sit there and watch all of the abominations of their sister going into whoredom, seeing the divorce take place, the treacherous sister didn't do any different. When they saw the northern kingdom act up and saw what happened, the same thing had to befall them, because the treacherous sister Judah did not pay any attention, did not take heed. But the Lord is going to gather Israel as a nation together. And he's going to say, I'm drawing you in. I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to allure her and bring her into the wilderness. And you know what? Y'all did me wrong. You did me wrong. But I'm going to speak comfortably unto her. And you know what? Because Israel is bethinking herself. Those that are going to be thinking themselves, this is the good part. I'm going to give you vineyards. See, this is why the love, the mercy of the Lord, it just goes on and on. I'm going to give you a vineyard. I'm going to do all of this stuff. It's going to be in that day, you're going to call me husband. You're going to call me Ishai. You're not going to be calling me no more Baali. I'm going to take that name out of your mouth. And you're not going to be remembered by that name. And that day, I'm going to make a covenant. I'm going to cause the land to make a covenant. I'm going to do all of this. You're going to lie down safely. I'm going to betroth you in righteousness. I'm going to betroth you in judgment. I'm going to betroth you in loving kindness. I'm going to betroth you in mercies. I'm going to even betroth you in faithfulness. All of this I'm going to do for Jezreel, for the scattered. And I'm going to invest. I'm going to sow her unto me in the earth. I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them which were not my people, you are my people. And the vows of the remarriage will take place. Brothers and sisters, I know we took our time to dissect that, and I wanted to take some time to go into it and break it down. There's a lot of other scriptures we could have went into. We could have showed you the Lamb and how they're going to marry the Lamb and how we can show that the Lamb was Christ. But I only wanted to deal with the divorce and the remarriage tonight. That's the places that we wanted to deal with. And so we hope that you've got some understanding out of this lesson. We hope that you can look at this lesson, look at the chronological order of things, and hopefully come back and let the timing, because the time is running out, brothers and sisters. When you look at what's happening, you can see things lining up. It's almost like, somebody's playing chess and they getting ready to make a move to force this to happen, because when you do that, they already know what the end's going to be. It's going to be checkmate. Brothers and sisters, we're coming down to that point where the abomination of the desolation is going to be placed in that temple is getting ready to be built. That's why you have turmoil where areas in Palestine that is occupied by Palestine has to be taken away, because that's where that temple is going to be built. It's all unfolding, brothers and sisters. It's all unfolding right before our very eyes. If you know the book, you understand what's taking place. I want to say shout out to all of our moderators being in the chat room this evening. We want to say peace and blessings to all of you all from the Facebook, as well as those that are just in the chat room. Thank you, Sister Brenda Beauclair. Thank you for asking about this subject tonight, and we hope that we were able to shed some light on it. There are many other angles to bring this lesson, but I hope that we brought it in an angle that will shed a little bit more or more in-depth light on it. We want to say that tomorrow night we're going to be talking about, I'm looking for Brother, where is he at? There it is. What makes you unclean, spiritually and physically? We're going to be talking about that tomorrow night. Tune in, brothers and sisters, 8:30 right here on this channel. That's our lesson tomorrow night. And on Thursday night, the Balm of Gilead radio show will be right here. We'll be doing our thing. We'll be tuning in live, simulcasting that lesson. And tomorrow night we'll get that lesson for you, the subject and stuff like that. You can get it. All right? All praises to the Most High, to the God of Israel. Let's say this, brothers and sisters. I have not been playing much music. because I don't want to get copyright issues. And some of the artists that we have been playing, they now have distributors on their music. And although the artists may not have a problem, the distributors do, because their music now is in the hands of those distributors. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a good thing for them because someone is marketing them. But most of the Israel of God choir songs, from time to time, we will play them, especially on Friday night. This weekend, I will be in Jacksonville, Mississippi, with the Israel of God brothers and sisters over there. Brother Azaria from Riverdale will be here in Fort Lauderdale. He will be the teacher, so we're looking forward to having him. I'll be reaching out to him and just giving him a warm welcome before he gets here. And tune in at 1 o'clock p.m. This Sabbath. All right, that being said, I'm going to get out of here, brothers and sisters. Here's some information on the IOG phone app. I encourage you to look at that because you can get all of the lessons in their full entirety. That's important. And I looked at the app. Let me tell you, everything is in order. Everything. Everything you want in an app that's making that kind of presentation and offering you the various lessons in their full entire length is awesome. Whether you're at the airport, whether you're traveling in an Uber, stuck in traffic, on your, well, don't watch it in your car unless you have a safe mount. But, you know, you can always listen to it audibly. But you all know what I'm saying. This app is off the chain. That's all I can tell you. You will enjoy this phone app. I'm going to put some information, infomercial regarding that. So check it out, and we're going to get out of here, and we will see you, brothers and sisters, tomorrow night. Same time, same channel. As we always say, let the words of your mouth and the meditation of your heart, let it be acceptable in his sight. In Jesus' name, God bless you. Have a good night.